Hi, I'm back. Tip number 3, to help your child love learning Chinese. I'm Emmeline of Cool Chinese, your bilingual expert. So if you tune in to my tip number 1 and tip number 2 today, you will know that the first tip is to be fun. Tip number 2, the activities has to be appropriate. So what is tip number 3? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever want to pick up something, be it cooking a certain recipe, or wanting to do gardening, or wanting to learn a certain online tool, but then you back out after a while, or just looking at how complicated the whole thing is? So you refuse to proceed with the particular learning. I don't know about you, but I remember years ago when my mother-in-law wanted to teach me a certain recipe to her cooking of the chicken liver. I didn't really learn it because it was just too messy, too complicated, and I said, forget it. So with your child's learning Chinese, it's the same thing. So here's tip number 3, is simple. Go back in my teaching videos again when I talk about learning Chinese the fast way, F.A.S.T. So tip number 3 is S. Why? Why do I have to make it simple? Now, if you make it too difficult, then the success, before your child actually experience success in learning the language, he or she would have already been defeated. Because, forget it, mom, it's just too difficult. So bring back the simplicity of learning the language. One mom texted me last week about how she should introduce, exposing the child to learning language, Chinese language, through listening. And she was asking for resources, what she can buy, what she can get online. And I basically told her this: turn on the radio. Exactly. Tune into the Chinese stations. Now that is really, really simple. You just have to reach out and tune in. Turn on the radio, tune into the Chinese stations. There's so many Chinese stations in Singapore. 933 is my favorite. And all you need to do is just tune it in a car, tune in when you're at home, and let your child listen to the Chinese words all the time. Now the brain, you notice before we start speaking the language, before we start reading and writing, we actually listen to Chinese a lot. So the brain actually picks up a lot of statistics before we even display that we understand the language. So we pick up the tones, the patterns, everything that involves Chinese before we do anything else. So tip number 3, please, parents, keep everything simple. Don't make your life complicated. Don't make the life of your child complicated. Just keep it simple. Back to the question I had. I mentioned that I wanted to tell you how to say Hari Raya in Chinese, right? So I'm going to take a break now. I'll tell you in my 4th video today, 4 o'clock. Come back at 4 o'clock. I'll tell you tip number 4 and how to say Hari Raya in Chinese. See ya.